Look at that. That's one of the coolest looking locomotives I've ever seen. It's got a very low center of gravity on it. And a very small area here for the locomotive engineer. Pretty sure it's because it operates in a coal mine. And that explains why we're here, because we are coming to you from Lansford, Pennsylvania, home of the number 9 coal mine tour. It's a place I recently found out about from a friend of mine, Journey with Jay. He was here with someone who did a video on it. And it's one of the lesser known coal mine tours here in Pennsylvania. Our original plans today was to go to the Pioneer Coal Mine Tour in Ashland, but unfortunately they closed November 1st. Today's November 4th. We missed it by a few days. This place is still open till the end of the month, and they have one more tour left for 3 p.m. So we're going to head in there, get our tickets, and show you what the Lansford number 9 mine has to offer. And I hope you're coming too. If you are, come along with me. Just to show you too, this is not your normal gauge of tracks. This is narrow gauge, which is almost always commonly used in coal mines or mines themselves because they are more compact and able to fit smaller equipment. So I think it's my first time, aside from what Pioneer Coal Mine Tour has, is a narrow gauge steam locomotive. And joining me today is the goofball RJ, Adam T, Jake and Becky, and on the backside is Mike from Good Day from Decay. Look at all the rails here.
Yeah.
And what they operate here is called a man trip, which is a battery-powered locomotive, also known as a Loki, which are the electric-powered ones, but they do have a electric-powered man trip that will take you into the mine. So, looking forward to that. And here's some information you can read about the number 9 Mine Museum. You can always pause that if you want to read more. It's up here, it says number 9 Mine Wash Shanty Museum, 1768. And there is some facts about this. I believe it's the longest, I have to double check, I think longest operating anthracite coal mine in the country. I know there is some significance to the mine itself. Here's a good map of showing everything here. And look at, this is what it used to look like. You are here. 1909. Out back we got a little coal car with some big chunks of anthracite. And a steel wheelbarrow. Things to do in Lansford. So let's head inside, because we got to get our tickets before the last trip or tour, and then we could maybe explore around afterwards. Yeah, there's a couple cool things I want to share with you guys later on once we get done.
Alright, I'll be right back, alright?
Hey, Adam.
Yes,
Where's the green shirt?
Got a little gift shop in here.
well, the wires here.
T-shirts and some
Okay.
old coal mining items.
We should get that one for Jake.
Little narrow gauge railroad spikes. Alright, so we just got our tickets now, and we're going to head into the museum area. I actually switched it to wide angle. There's a lot to see here. And this part, I believe, is open year-round, the museum part here. So you come check this out, and the mine operates, I think, up until December. Oh, there's a mucker. I've actually seen abandon one of these in some of the out west coal mine YouTube channels I follow. Some of these are, most of them are steam powered. I'm sorry, air powered. Works off an airline. Some are battery powered as well, I believe. Oh, there's pretty cool chess pieces. And the many tools of the trade. It's actually pretty heavy. Look at that. I would leave a mark, I think. Oh, sorry. Don't touch the artifacts. I'm touching them. This is what the miners used to do too, keep their stuff hanging so that no one can bother. I guess they had locks, I believe, and only you had the key for it so that no one could steal your stuff. I believe that's how it worked. They got a basket for your tools and accessories. Look at this wishing well. It's made out of coal. There's some decorative pieces made out of coal. And there's hard hat station and jackets, which we're already prepared. It's actually in the 40s outside, but inside of the mine, it's always warmer. It's around 55 degrees year round. And here's like the operator station. I've seen actually some of these in the old resorts. They have the operator for all the hotel calls. Ooh, here's like a doctor's area. Medical table. Oxygen, breathing apparatus. Oh, look at this. The old mules pulling, like a diorama almost. Pulling the coal cars out. I love stuff like that. It's so detailed. The detonator box. Fire in the hole. Oh, here's like a recreation of the man trip. Well, this was not. This would be a coal trip. Pulling the coal cars out. I'll give you a better look at it like that. Here's a colliery. The chutes loading up the coal cars. It's a clock. Different bells here. A whistle, steam whistle. These are bells for probably signaling and stuff like that. The old phones. And very commonly used. Insulators, we see them along the old rail lines and stuff. Signal lanterns. The old coal stove. Oh, look at the baby in the sink here. And dishes are clean. Got the pipes, the Coke bottles, the old spices and everything. It's funny seeing this stuff because I come across a lot of stuff in the old abandoned homes I explore. So, radio. Look at that washer. I think it's a washer dryer Philco. I never seen one like that. Thought that was explosives there for a second. Oh yeah, it is explosives. Dummy cartridge. It's the different charges they used. Detonator cord, blasting caps. You look at detonator blasting caps. It's almost like an advertisement for them. Don't touch. Here's the carbide lamps, battery powered lamps. It's hard to imagine that was your source of light working in the tunnels. It's only about a few birthday candles bright. So this is a pretty good overview as to what you can expect if you come here to check out the Lansford number 9 Coal Mine Museum. And we're going to be waiting for them to give us a call to head out on our tour, and we will pick up from there. All right, so we just had an introduction from our coal mine tour guide, and we're going to be headed outside now to get ready to head into the mine.
Becky, did you want one?
And coal hats, hard hats are optional here for taller individuals, but most of us, they said, will be okay. We are the last trip of the day, and we are going with the another group of people, obviously, who are here as well, but shouldn't affect us filming filming the tour of it. Now, there's some other cool stuff here to check out too. I want to get some footage of. Yeah, don't want to miss it.
Listen, you got like pain over
So all kind of cramped in here in the first car.
I gotta charge you for that.
We're gonna be headed in there. I hope it's not dark in there.
It's alright, you got a Boy Scout flashlight in his pocket.
Not the first hole in the ground we've gone into.
All right, so after a very bumpy ride, we made it.
So anyhow, it's the agent of mine here. It's been in operation for, like I was saying, it started in 1855. It ceased operation in here as a working mine in 1972, but it's still tourable yet. One of the few remaining yet, like in the country, you could tour. It's hard to notice that this mine here, this tunnel here, is a drift tunnel. Its elevation is 8 foot higher at this elevation than it is on the outside. It's two reasons. Water could drain from this level and the lower levels within the mine out from this level, so they would pump the water from the lower levels of the mine to this level, and then gravity would feed it out. Second reason was the power mode of transportation at the time was actually mule power. So the mules could pull a full coal car downhill at that slight grade over that distance than a full car. So it was basically full car downhill, empty car uphill. So what we'll do is we'll continue on up this way. We'll start a walking tour. This is our first stop along the way. This area of mine is called Goat Devil. If you can picture like the set of tracks that we rode in on was the original set of tracks. Within that set of tracks was a smaller set. There's a small dolly that sits in here on the ground. This little dolly here would actually come out and run on the center tracks. It would go down to the shafts, which are down over my right shoulder, down that direction, the two shafts. What it would do is when the full coal cars would come up the elevator system to this level, they would hook this little dolly system to it, and they would pull out those full coal cars up into this location. At this location, they would hook a mule up to it, and the mule would carry it, drag it out, downhill out to the breaker. At one time, this was a steam-driven power, like I said, in the 1855 time frame. It was converted over to electricity around the 1931 time era. So, and that's what an operator did. This was here. These tunnels within this mine here basically go for miles and miles because the structures on this side is this block building. There's one on the opposite side also. In this time frame, they were used as repair shops and maintenance shops at different times over the long history that it had. The tooling that they used was basically all simple hand tools. It's kind of like how they built the pyramids, with a hammer and a chisel, and that's how you punched your holes into this, because yes, well, you had a little bit of steam power, but there's no electricity for rotating machinery or equipment. So basically all the repairs were done here. Anything from the lower levels of the mine were brought up to this level for repairs. The shaft system that's here, if you look at the timbers that are within the walls, it's all exposed walls, so a little rock can come tumbling down at any time. It's an old structure, old timbers like they used to build the sailing ships back in the olden days when, they used to, sail the ships across the sea. We're approximately 200 feet below the surface right now. I just want to mention that you're on level 1. 200 feet below us is level 2. 200 feet below us, that level is level 3. 200 feet again is level 4. So there's 4 levels within the mine. Total distance from the surface to the bottom is like 1,000 feet. So Empire State Building, I think it's around like 1,150 feet or so. The Eiffel Tower is about 950 feet. So I'm just giving you some comparisons for how deep this mine goes to some structures that are on the surface. So anyhow, these platforms have been sitting here stationary. They did work at lower levels of this mine, still production up through 1960. In 1960, they stopped production at the deeper levels within the mine, but they continued to mine coal off of this level to 1972. So these platforms have been stationary since 60. 1972, the mine actually stopped operations on a production level. In that year, people are familiar with the Hurricane Agnes in this area. Some people not familiar with that, I'll try to use, in recent times, the hurricane in New Orleans, when New Orleans got flooded. Hurricane sat there spinning for a couple of days. You know, this area here got hit with a Hurricane Agnes in June of 1972. Something like 32 to 35 inches of rain. So Tamaka, which is 4 miles west of us, got flooded out. The Susquehanna River Valley got flooded out, and this mine actually got flooded out, which was enough to close the production. You know, more water was entering the mine, and they could pump out some of the cars that they had in here, but, you know, carried out of the mine basically with the storm water.
RJ, there's a rat behind you.
It's friendly.
It's looking up there like old elevator shafts. I think we could actually go up on top and try to find those too. Oh my God. That's like 25 stories down. Can't get the light down there. It's hard to see. Oh, there. There's the water. Wow. The old oil can.
The roof would come down. Many miners lost their lives within these mines. He was singing about these particular cars that are here. This car here is, there was 5,000 of these cars within the valley in the heyday. 1,200 cars used within this mine itself at that time frame. So it's a lot of cars. Currently, they're down to like 9 cars left that the museum foundation has, you know, over history, and, you know, it took its toll, and a lot of them were you know, scrapped. You know, different companies owning it and switching things around and such like that. So what a miner did is his job was to actually load 2 of these a day. Each and every miner, that was his threshold that he was supposed to produce. But on this side, this is just here as a transfer station. Again, it was just a steam-driven piece of equipment that was down in here. It was electrified, like I said, in the 1930s. All it was is the coal car would sit here on this particular platform, and it would just shift it left and right to align it, to place it onto into the elevator shafts to take them down onto the hall shafts that are here. So this is a very simple piece of equipment, you know what I mean? But then again, it was all, where you're standing here is kind of like the interstates in the States. You know, all the production passed right through here. It was just like what you call like a choke point, you know. Yeah, I don't know. We're gonna talk a little bit about the tools. The tools were rather simple at the time. They basically had steel rods with hardened tips. They would take them, hold them up against the face of the rock. Coal worker behind it would hit it with a sledgehammer, and you give it a quarter turn, you hit it again. You were just like punching holes through rock. Wow. So that's about how they did it. It was all like manual labor. Some of the other tools where the cash register was overhead, there were coal drills. These drills were like this. They would run from 3 to 8 foot in length. They would have like a chest brace drill. You know, a miner would press against it with his chest, coal worker behind him, actually shove it into him almost like a rugby or a football game, and he would turn an auger type, you know, drill bit, and you would drill into the face of the coal. Coal being a lot softer than what the rock was. And then they got more modern. They have what this is called like a leg jack drill. This is an air cylinder that's here. What they would do is actually the compressed air would go in this. This weighs about 85 pounds the way it sits now. But air pressure would fill this piston cylinder here, forcing it into the face of the rock with the drill. You know, just squeeze the handle and it would rotate it. This is about 125 years old technology, still used yet till today. The only thing on today's is that they would have water injectors on to spray up in there to keep the rock dust down so the miners wouldn't be, breathing the dust in as a safety factor. They had Twitter 200 years ago in the mine, right? So it's what it was the gas detection system. So the gases that were in the mine were lethal, and explosive. So in the beginning, what they did is they had small birds within the mines and if you notice the bird not having a lot of activity, there was gas, and the gas would basically eliminate them before they would eliminate you. So that was one of the reasons that they started with small birds in the mine. 1847, a guy over in England, Sir Humphrey Davy, invented it's called the Davy's lantern. They're up in a museum that you could do. I have just a lantern in my hand for demonstration, small what they really look like. Those lanterns had a wire mesh around them. It was an open flame lantern to detect a gas detector, to detect the gases within a mine. And like I say, there was an open flame light. There was two gases present. The gases within a mine, you couldn't see them, hear them, taste them, you didn't know that they're there. But there's the two gases. One is called black damp, and the other one is flame damp. Back in the late mid 1800s, there wasn't schooling for the youngsters. Only the rich people sent their kids to school. All the other younger people and stuff like that, they were working. At 5 years old. Well, I shouldn't say 5, but 7 years old to be working over in a breaker as a breaker boy. They'd be sitting on 5-inch wide pieces of wood over in a sluice section there. The coal material would be coming down under their feet, and their job was to pull the impurities out of that coal stream. Whether it be pieces of wood, pieces of rock, pieces of slate out of that coal stream. Because they were selling coal, they weren't selling rock and wood. And that's what they did. Most of the kids there doing that didn't have fingernails because of the rocks. They were always moving. They were always hitting their fingers. So yeah, cuts. Fingernails were missing. If you had any damage like that. The cure all of the day was you took some grease and you rubbed some grease on your wounds, and that was the old fix-all for everything. Back in those days, it was like that's about what they had. So after the children were 7 years old, and now children grow rather quickly. So we're going to jump forward to they're 12 years old. 12 years old now, physically they couldn't fit that location, so they would give them a job over here in the mine. And what they did is they were mule boys, taking about an 800-pound animal, taken by the reins. And now what his job was to do is take an empty coal cart to where the miners needed it. When that car was filled, he would remove that car and get them another one. If they needed extra materials, wood or dynamite, anything that materials that they needed to support, continuing their deeper mining operations, that's what his job was. And they did that from, say, 12 years old to 16, 17. At that time, kids grow rather quickly. They could be like a young adult, and now they might become a helper or actually a miner themselves. This here's a mule way. You had access in the mine when time allowed you. You could ride the haul shaft up and down. Very few laws in the time frame, but one of the laws was that you had to have other ways of getting in and out of a mine. So what they did is this is actually one of the there's 7 mineable size veins of coal within this mine itself. This is called the Holmes vein. This vein runs about 4.5 foot thick. So what they did is, other than they needed coal, that was their job, they actually cut an access way in down to like the lower levels of the mine. This goes in a little short distance here, but then it drops down at about a 40-degree angle for 150 feet. Just if you look at a parking structure in any of the cities, like parking decks, it drops down at a 40-degree angle for about 150 feet. There's a turnaround at that point where you can take that large animal like that mule, get them to spin around, and now take them back down again 40 degrees for another 150 feet. And now that would get you down to the second level. These are cut throughout the mine at different locations because for every so far in mileage that you would go into a mine, they had to cut one in so miners could get out. You never knew when you're going to hit water, gas explosions, or a cave in or something like that where you had to exit the mine in a hurry. So, and what they did is they got the coal out of this this vein here as they were doing. Of these 7 veins of coal, I don't know if anybody's familiar with the area, but I did hear somebody say that they just got off the turnpike down by Lehighton, and they had to come through Jim Thorpe. So Jim Thorpe's about 9 miles in that direction. So if I'm in Jim Thorpe and now I turn around and face this direction, my back's at Jim Thorpe, to Upper Dauphin County, above our state capital, Harrisburg, 60 miles. That's how far these coal veins run, from Jim Thorpe down to Upper Dauphin County. It's 60 miles. If you look at a piece of cake, a slice of pizza, or such, if you go from Jim Thorpe up to Wilkes-Barre and you take that like on an angle down towards that Harrisburg area, that's about the 425 square miles which encompass the anthracite coal fields here in northeastern Pennsylvania. Okay, so these coal veins, the reason they discovered them, they're called outcroppings. These veins of coal back in 1793, there was guys up on top of the mountain over here hunting or cutting wood or whatever that they were doing. You know how you make the fire rings with stones around where you burn the fire outside so it doesn't grow. And so this guy made a fire out of some rocks on the surface, and all of a sudden he wakes up and says, "What the heck? The rocks are burning." You know what I mean? And that's how they discovered coal. You know what I mean? It's that eureka moment. You know what I mean? You know, the guy sat in the bathtub. But anyhow, regardless, that's how they discovered coal on the surface. They dug on the surface down to a certain depth with the tools that they had today, you know, picks and shovels and trying to get water out of the pits that they were digging. And then they figured out that they had to dig a tunnel in through here to access the deeper veins of coal. These veins here from this mountain ridge on my left to the mountain ridge on my right, which would be Summit Hill, and the mountain here between like Lansford and where Nescahoning or Lake Hotta would be. This valley runs about 2 to 3 miles across. These veins of coal run from the surface down approximately 2,000 feet below the surface, make a spin up and come up on the other mountain ridge. So. Flashlight to take a look up in here. This is called the home vein. And if you look off the edge up in there, and you would take your drill, and you would start to drill 8 or 10 or 12 holes into that coal, that big section of coal that's up in there. So you would drill your holes up in there, and then what you would do is you would actually start packing them with black, you know, to blast that rock out. If you could picture anybody that's seen any movies from the Civil War era where those cannons would go off, or those muskets from that Civil War, any black powder guns, the amount of smoke that these things generate. You know what I mean? And you're down here, and now like there's like no air, and you're in a tunnel you're in a barrel of a gun basically as it goes. If I should say, when that was done a little bit later, like 40 years later, they invented dynamite. It was the same process. What miners did was a simple job. You drill holes in something, you put explosive into the holes, you set the charge off, clean up that mess, and now you keep on.
That's a stream. I just want to go and play in it.
Show you a little bit more realistically what the working conditions were like.
Cliff, I like it.
Okay, I have my light on my thing, and I have one here, and if anybody's, just, if it bothers you, just let me know, and I'll gladly bring the lights back on. Just for a couple
Keep
seconds.
screens down, guys.
Okay, folks, lights out.
Oh,
It's dark.
Okay, now, what I just would just give your eyes a second or two to adjust to nothing. So, what I wanna do is, if I shine my light down that way, you can see about 100 or so feet. I just want to mention to people that this light here is a modern light. This is a lot more light intensity than what you will get from one candle power with the miner's castle. Can you imagine yourself as a 12-year-old boy leading a mule through the mines with this much light on top of your head? Could you imagine yourself as the miners crawling up in those holes down there after you set off a dynamite charge to go up there and remove loose rock with this amount of lighting? Times that he got injured, and you could see how easy it could be easy to get, cuts with a rock falling on you or across your arm. If you were injured in the earliest days, 1930, they had actually a small wooden structure here, which was a hospital, but in 1930, with the expansion, this was a nice white building in here. There was actually electricity that they had. Dr. Young was a physician on staff at the time. He formed a mine safety a rescue team there and trained other workers in first aid within the mine here itself.
That's a collapsed area.
Sure, that's a train.
That's what they were mining out. And if you look up in this section here, folks, this is what I call a rough cut 2-foot square hole. That goes up about 80 feet. That's another workings up there. What they did is they went up 80 feet above this tunnel.
There's the coal.
There's a parallel tunnel up above us here where they dumped the coal out of that also. So they would shimmy up in there and what they call like the chicken ladders, and they would start mining the coal out, bring it back, drop it down through these holes into a waiting coal car. That's what it was called. That's what miners did. In this mine yet, or since they within northeastern Pennsylvania, that there's 10 deep mines still being worked. There's 23 surface mines still yet in Pennsylvania. Anthracite coal, even though it gets a bad image on the TV every night about coal being what coal is, I believe there's one anthracite coal power plant still working, burning coal yet. Anthracite coal in this area still is used as home heating for like a lot of people. 1 ton of coal is about a 3-foot cube. That's one ton of coal weight by volume. So 1 ton of coal has the equivalent of about 200 gallons of home heating oil, 180 to 200 gallons of home heating oil. So it's $170 versus whatever heating oil goes for. Coal is still used. It's used in pharmaceuticals. They put it in water filters. They use it for making like titanium dioxide, which is the white and white paint. They use it in making high grade carbon steel, which is in rigid structural type steel that they use it for.
Is it possible just to get a look at the controls here?
Yeah, sure.
How's it operate?
Step on. This is your off in this position. First gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear. Okay. Forward is this way, neutral is in the middle, and reverse is this way. This is for your lights, one for the front, one for the back. That's a foot brake. This is on with the brake, this is off with the brake.
Okay.
So operates batteries, it's a 1949.
1949?
Yep.
I've actually operated trolleys yesterday at Baltimore Trolley Museum. They had the same kind of controls.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
so it's neat to see that.
Oh, yes, yes.
Very cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so we just got done with the tour. They're putting the man trip away in their shed there. And I just want to show you some of the grounds here and the cool equipment that they have. This is some type of steam-powered locomotive. Looks like they may have been the old trip car here to bring the people in.
Looked like it had much better seating.
Yeah.
Is that steam?
Yeah, it's steam. Big boiler. This one looks like it tips sideways to dump the coal. It's a pretty heavy duty one. There's some old sets of wheels here. That's like a little shaker chute there. So the gentleman said they're actually donating this to I guess a mine tour place in Ohio. It's gonna be leaving next month, so this will be the last time you'll probably see it here. I never saw anything like this.
He says the end of the month this is going to Ohio.
Mm. There's actually wheels on them.
They were sitting a long time.
Wow, they're like totally encased. Wow, those are kind of crazy. I never saw them like that. Got their pile of rails here and some more equipment here. I have to say, this mine tour was surprisingly very impressive. I've only seen a video or two on the place, but videos only give you a slight idea as to what you can expect in person. But coming here, it's quite a nice little operation they have here. It's much smaller than traditional coal mine tours, like the Locomotive coal mine tour. Most people know about that one at McDade Park. That's much larger, much more, I guess you could say, in-depth with their tour, larger mine. But this one, though, nonetheless was equally as impressive. And knowing that it's the longest continuously operated anthracite coal mine in the world, no one else could say that except these guys. So they did say 1855 is when it opened, I believe. 1931 is when it was modernized with electricity. But it was a combination of steam-powered equipment, air, pneumatic. You know, they had the water and lighting put in. But operated until 1972, when Hurricane Agnes came in and basically shut down operations because everything was flooded and it wouldn't be cost effective to pump out all the water. The mine actually sat kind of vacant, abandoned for a number of years, and they eventually reopened it, and it's been a coal mine tour ever since. So the group of people here, you know, it's a small number that work here and operate it. They are very knowledgeable though, very polite, very helpful, and definitely deserve some recognition with the public, because this place, I've lived in Pennsylvania my whole life. In 2019, I just found out about it. So I'm only just over an hour away from here. Pioneer Coal Mine Tunnel is another local one, about 45 minutes away from here. And Lackawanna County Coal Mine Tour, a bit over an hour away from here. So within the general vicinity, you got 3 different coal mine tours, each with their own tale to tell, you know, with their operations, with the men that worked here, the type of mining. This one goes horizontally into the mountain. Same with Pioneer Coal. Lackawanna County goes down vertically down a slope. But I'm gonna stop jabbering though. I just want to share my thoughts with you after we got out of there and show you some of the other pieces here. And if we have anything else to show or explain or talk about, I'll share it with you. Otherwise, we'll wrap up the video shortly after that. So down there is where we just were, the platform, and up here they got an old Dodge dump truck, which was used for dumping coal, probably for private residences. And it's actually in fairly good shape too. I know some of these coal trucks actually have a raised, almost like a scissor lift dump body on it, so it could be raised up to dump the coal out the chute. Not sure if that's one of those type or not, but I have seen them. So we got a drag bucket, another old dump. And up on top somewhere is supposed to be that elevator, top of the elevator shaft, but I'm not sure exactly where it is. So the mine is officially closed for today, but the guy said we could stick around and take some pictures and footage. I want to show you though, this is where we went in, they closed it off. That's the man door, and there's like a decking there. That's because that's water drainage. The way it's sloped, this water will naturally come out with gravity and continues out along that channel. So it's kind of cool how they designed it. And up behind it though, there's some other stuff, which I don't know exactly what we're looking at, but my curiosity is piqued. So, literally we're walking right on top of the mine right now. It's a metal pipe. That's some type of chute. There's power lines up there, looks like, or poles, and some concrete structures. It's like Coker Coal Company. It's a little transport car. And I'll let you guys read this if you want. You can pause it. It says the coal miner's prayer. All right, everyone, that's going to do it for today's adventure here at the Lansford number 9 mine. I had an incredible time here, and I got to say, for such a small, little, quaint, quiet, lesser known operation, it was one of my favorite ones. I've been into Lackawanna County Coal Mine Tour dozens of times since I was born. I've yet to experience Pioneer Coal, but this one is definitely up there with one of my favorites because just the small location of it, like a smaller, you know, it's almost like tucked away here in the area. And they don't do a whole lot of advertising. Like I said, I just learned about it for the first time after 38 years. And it's pretty cool to know that they were able to turn it into a public coal mine tour. So if you guys have any questions, comments, or thoughts, share it down below. I will do my best to respond. Any information I didn't portray through on the microphone, I will try to put subtitles on the screen. But if you're in the area, it's just outside of Tamaqua and Jim Thorpe. Definitely worth checking out. $10, you get to check out the museum, take the coal mine tour, and you can spend a good afternoon here in coal country, Pennsylvania. So with that said, I do want to thank all of these guys for coming along today. Anyone who did film, I will link their channel down below in the description. With that said, thanks for watching. Until next time, we'll see you in the next video.